All right, welcome to your deep dive. Wow, you've really outdone yourself with these sources. We've got the Kabbalion, some excerpts in Arabic like OEA7.BDF, historical accounts, comparisons of ancient pantheons. It's going to be wild.
It is fascinating. It's like they're not just telling us what people believed back then, but like a blueprint for how they structured their beliefs.
Yeah, and how they all connect, right?
And how they connect, yeah. Sometimes in ways you really wouldn't expect.
So we're uncovering core concepts from Kabbalah, Hermeticism, all these ancient pantheons, right?
Exactly.
To see if we can unlock, well, some of that wisdom embedded in these systems. For example, did you know there are some really interesting parallels between ancient Egyptian deities and some of the concepts you find in Kabbalah?
Oh, absolutely. And that highlights a key point here. These systems weren't just random myths, right?
No.
These were sophisticated attempts to understand the universe and humanity's place within it.
Okay, so let's dive into Kabbalah first. I have to admit, whenever I hear Kabbalah, my mind goes right to Madonna and red string bracelets.
Right.
But obviously it's way more than a celebrity trend, right?
Yeah. Kabbalah is a really complex system. It's trying to explain the universe and our connection to the divine. It's offering a roadmap of sorts for understanding how divine energy flows into our world.
I like that, a roadmap.
Yeah.
What kind of landmarks are we hitting on this roadmap?
Well, one of the most well-known is the Tree of Life, with its 10 Sephiroth. Each Sephiroth represents a different aspect of God and creation.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, the Sephiroth, they're like the signposts along the path to enlightenment.
You got it. You can almost think of them as a personal development plan, right?
Okay.
Laid out by ancient mystics. Each Sephiroth represents a challenge to overcome, a quality to cultivate as you move towards a more spiritually aware state.
Okay, that helps. But there's also this idea of emanations from a hidden God.
Huh.
And that's a little mind-bending for me. How can something be hidden and still emanating?
Well, you see, Kabbalah suggests that God is beyond our comprehension, beyond, our ability to fully grasp, But through a series of emanations, God reveals aspects of himself, with each emanation a step closer to our physical reality.
It's kind of like trying to understand the sun. We can't look directly at it,
Right.
but we can experience its light and warmth.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of trying to understand really complex things, we have the Sefer Yetzirah, or Book of Creation, in the mix. It's considered foundational to Kabbalah, and it suggests that this tradition has been around for a very, very long time.
Makes sense. Anything that attempts to explain the universe probably requires a pretty old book. But, I've also heard there are controversies surrounding Kabbalah, right? Is there any truth to the idea that it's secret? Like elite knowledge?
Well, yeah, you're right. There are differing perspectives on Kabbalah. Uncovering the Kabbalah by Harold Rome touches on this idea of elitism, but remember, we're presenting a range of viewpoints here. We're not endorsing any particular stance.
Of course. Just trying to illuminate the different facets, so our listener can come to their own conclusions.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this roadmap of Kabbalah, this attempt to understand this hidden God and the flow of divine energy. Now, Hermeticism, how does that fit in?
Well, Hermeticism, it's like Kabbalah in that it's also concerned with hidden knowledge, but its focus is more on the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay.
It suggests that by understanding these hidden principles, we can transform ourselves and achieve a greater understanding of reality.
So it's like Kabbalah is about the map, and Hermeticism is about the journey.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And Hermeticism, it's often linked to this legendary figure, Hermes Trismegistus. He's often depicted as like the original wise sage, right?
Oh, right.
And the Corpus Hermetica, this collection of ancient texts, is attributed to him and covers topics ranging from alchemy and astrology to the very nature of reality itself.
Hermes Trismegistus, alchemy. Yeah, it's getting mystical. But are there any, concrete connections we can draw between Hermeticism and Kabbalah?
Oh, absolutely. One of the most compelling parallels is this idea of mental transmutation. It's discussed at length in the Kabbalion.
Mental transmutation.
Yeah. Essentially, it suggests that by changing your thoughts, you can change your reality.
Wait, so this is like ancient manifestation techniques.
It's remarkable how these ancient ideas find resonance in contemporary thought, isn't it?
I know. I thought that was a modern self-help concept.
Right. Both Kabbalah and Hermeticism also suggest the existence of different planes of reality, implying there's more to the universe than what we can physically perceive.
So these ancient traditions, They were already exploring concepts that modern science is only just beginning to grasp.
It is pretty incredible, yeah.
But Hermetic thought, didn't that also have a big impact on later esoteric traditions?
Yes, Hermeticism had a lasting legacy. Think about figures like Eliphas Levi and Aleister Crowley, both heavily influenced by Hermetic principles. And then there's the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secret society that integrated Hermetic thought into its practices.
Okay, so we've got these two intricate systems. Kabbalah and Hermeticism, both dealing with the universe, hidden knowledge, transformation. Now we're going to add ancient gods and goddesses to the mix. I got to say, I'm a little apprehensive. Trying to keep all this straight.
Don't worry, it's not about memorizing a pantheon of deities, right? It's about understanding that these figures, they were more than just characters and stories. They were archetypes, representing forces of nature, aspects of the human psyche, and even philosophical concepts.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. So where do we even begin? We've got Egyptian, Greek, even some Sumerian references in our sources.
Let's start with the Egyptian pantheon. Specifically, the Ennead, the 9 primary deities. Now, we could spend hours on each deity, but let's focus on Horus, son of Isis and Osiris. His story, it wasn't just a myth. It was like a blueprint for overcoming challenges and restoring balance, something we all struggle with, right?
Oh, yeah. Everyone loves a good comeback story. But how does this connect to, the bigger picture of ancient wisdom?
Well, Horus's journey to avenge his father Osiris, that was symbolic of the eternal battle between order and chaos, light and darkness, And the Egyptians, they believed that by understanding these cosmic principles, as embodied by their deities, they could navigate the challenges of life more effectively.
So it's about seeing these myths as metaphors for the human experience.
Exactly. And this wasn't unique to the Egyptians. The Greek pantheon, with figures like Zeus, Aphrodite, and Hermes, also offered symbolic interpretations of human nature and the forces that shape our lives. Take Hermes, for instance. He wasn't just the messenger god. He represented communication, travel, trickery, and the power of words.
Okay. I see. So these pantheons weren't just about worshiping specific deities, but about understanding these deeper archetypes and the roles they play in our life.
Exactly. And this brings us to another fascinating piece of the puzzle, the Chaldean oracles. These texts, they blended Babylonian and Greek ideas, and they had a profound influence on Western esoteric thought. They were like a bridge between ancient wisdom and later traditions with elements of Kabbalah and Hermeticism woven in.
Okay, so this is all starting to feel a bit like Inception, with layers upon layers of symbolism and interconnected ideas.
Right.
Tell me more about the Chaldean oracles. What kind of information did they contain?
They were thought to be divinely inspired pronouncements, offering insights into the mysteries of the universe and the path to spiritual enlightenment. Think of them as a sort of ancient mystical guidance system.
An ancient mystical guidance system. Sign me up. I could definitely use some of that in my life.
And that's what's so fascinating about these ancient systems. They weren't just abstract philosophies. They were meant to be applied to daily life.
Yeah.
They offered tools for understanding the world, for connecting with the divine, for navigating those challenges of existence.
Okay, so we've got Kabbalah, Hermeticism, Egyptian and Greek pantheons, and the Chaldean oracles. I have to say, my mind is officially starting to bend a little.
But that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It means we're starting to see the connections, the underlying patterns, those echoes of ancient wisdom that resonate across cultures and throughout history.
You're right. It makes me wonder if these systems, from such different parts of the world, share such striking similarities.
Yeah.
Maybe they're all pointing towards some universal truths.
You're onto something there, and that's precisely what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive. Get ready for some aha moments as we uncover the cross-cultural connections that tie these traditions together.
Can't wait. But I need a moment to process all this amazing information. This deep dive is already living up to its name.
Right. As we've been exploring all these systems, these intricate systems, it struck me that they weren't just abstract philosophies. These were like living, breathing traditions shaped by the cultures and individuals who practiced them.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's easy to get lost in the concepts, right?
Oh, right.
But these ideas, they were meant to be applied to everyday life, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where the real power lies, These systems, they provided a framework for understanding the world, for connecting with the divine, for navigating the ups and downs of human existence. They weren't just theories. They were tools for living.
Okay, so let's talk about how these ideas were actually put into practice. We've got sources here that hint at rituals, secret societies, hidden knowledge passed down through generations. This is all very, like, Da Vinci Code stuff.
Yeah. Well, without the fictional conspiracies, of course. But you're right, there is a sense of mystery and intrigue surrounding these practices. Take the Chaldean oracles, for example. They were believed to have been received through divination, channeling wisdom from higher realms.
So it's like having ancient spiritual advisors on speed dial.
Yeah.
But these oracles, I mean, they weren't just for show, right? How were they actually used?
Well, they were used to guide decisions, to understand the will of the gods, to gain insights into the mysteries of the universe. It was about seeking guidance from, well, a source of wisdom beyond human comprehension.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And what about those secret societies? I'm always fascinated by the idea of hidden knowledge and initiations and all that. Were they just ancient fraternities, or was there something more to it?
Think of groups like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. They were deeply steeped in Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and other esoteric traditions. They had elaborate rituals, complex symbolism, and a hierarchical system of knowledge, revealing deeper teachings as initiates progressed.
It sounds almost like an ancient mystery school.
It kind of was.
And this idea of initiation, I mean, that suggests that knowledge wasn't just freely given, right? But earned through study, contemplation, and maybe even a few tests along the way.
Exactly. It's about a gradual unveiling of truth, a process of transformation that unfolds over time. And you see this reflected in many ancient systems. The Tree of Life in Kabbalah, for example. It can be seen as a map of spiritual ascent, with each sephirot representing a different stage of development.
Okay, so we've got these systems for understanding the universe, rituals and initiations, and this emphasis on personal transformation. But where does that leave us in the modern world? I mean, do these ancient systems still hold any relevance for us today?
That's the million-dollar question, and I think the answer is a resounding yes. We're living in a time of immense change, uncertainty, and complexity. And many people are searching for meaning, for connection, for a sense of grounding amidst all the chaos.
I see it all the time. People are drawn to practices like mindfulness, yoga, even astrology, all of which have roots in these ancient traditions.
Exactly. And it makes sense. These systems, they offer a timeless wisdom that transcends cultural boundaries, right?
Yeah.
They provide tools for self-discovery, for spiritual growth, for finding our place in the grand scheme of things.
But how do we bridge that gap between the ancient and the modern? I mean, sometimes these systems feel a little intimidating, maybe even a bit too esoteric for the average person.
That's true. But it's about finding those points of resonance, the concepts that speak to our modern sensibilities. Take the idea of mental transmutation from the Kybalion. It aligns perfectly with modern self-help principles and the power of positive thinking.
Right. It's basically the law of attraction with an ancient twist.
Mm-hmm.
And that idea of interconnectedness, so central to both Kabbalah and Hermeticism, that resonates with modern scientific discoveries about the interconnected nature of reality, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Quantum physics is revealing the interconnectedness of everything at a subatomic level. It's almost as if science is catching up with these ancient insights.
So it's not about blindly following these ancient systems, but about finding the wisdom that still holds true.
Yeah.
And applying it to our modern context. Right?
Yeah.
It's about taking the best of the old and integrating it with the new.
Precisely. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so exciting. It's not just about learning facts. It's about expanding our consciousness, about seeing the world through a different lens.
And that's where the real magic happens,
Yeah.
right? It's when we start to connect the dots, to see the patterns, to recognize the echoes of ancient wisdom in our own lives. It's about realizing that we're part of something so much larger than ourselves. A tapestry of existence that's been woven across millennia.
Beautiful imagery. It reminds us that the quest for knowledge, for meaning, is a timeless human pursuit. We're all part of that ongoing journey, and these ancient systems, they offer us valuable guideposts along the way.
Okay, so we've established that these ancient systems have modern relevance. But let's get practical. How can we actually incorporate these ideas into our daily lives? What tools or practices can we draw from?
Well, one powerful tool is symbolism. Think of the tarot, for example. It's not about fortune telling, but about using archetypes and symbolism to gain insights into our own subconscious, to understand our strengths and challenges, to navigate life's transitions.
So it's like a symbolic mirror, right? Reflecting back our inner landscape. But how does that actually work? I mean, do the cards themselves hold some sort of power?
It's not the cards themselves, but the symbolism they represent. Each card is like a key that unlocks a different aspect of the human experience. By working with the tarot, we can tap into our own intuition, explore our subconscious patterns, and gain a deeper understanding of ourselves.
That makes sense. And it sounds a lot like what we were talking about earlier with the ancient gods and goddesses using these figures as archetypes to understand ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. And the same goes for astrology. It's not about predicting the future, but about understanding the energetic patterns at play in our lives, using the symbolism of the planets and zodiac signs as a language for self-awareness.
So both tarot and astrology, they're like ancient wisdom toolkits,
Yes.
helping us to access deeper layers of meaning.
Exactly. They draw from Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and ancient mythology, weaving together a rich tapestry of symbolic language that can help us navigate the complexities of life.
Okay, so we've got symbolism. What other tools can we use?
Another powerful practice is meditation. Many ancient traditions emphasize the importance of stilling the mind, of connecting with the inner self, of accessing higher states of consciousness.
Oh yeah, meditation is definitely having a moment right now.
Yeah.
But didn't those ancient traditions practice some pretty intense forms of meditation? I'm not sure I'm ready to live in a cave and chant for hours on end.
Well, you don't have to go to those extremes. It's about finding a practice that works for you, whether it's mindfulness meditation, Kabbalistic visualizations, or yogic breathing techniques. The key is to cultivate a deeper connection with yourself, with that inner stillness that's always present, even amidst the chaos of daily life.
That interconnection, that's really the foundation for everything, isn't it? It's about knowing ourselves, understanding our place in the world, and aligning with our purpose.
You've hit the nail on the head. These ancient systems, they provide a framework for that inner journey, for cultivating self-awareness, for connecting with the divine spark within. It's about recognizing that we're not just physical beings, but spiritual beings having a human experience.
Okay, I'm getting chills. That's so profound. But it brings up another question. If these ancient systems, if they're all pointing towards this inner journey, this connection with the divine, how do we reconcile that with the fact that there are so many different paths, so many different traditions? It can feel overwhelming at times.
That's a valid point. And I think the key is to approach these systems with an open mind and a discerning heart, Not every path will resonate with everyone, and that's perfectly okay. It's about finding what speaks to your soul, what aligns with your values, what feels authentic to you.
So it's not about finding the right path, but the path that's right for you. Like trying on different shoes until you find the perfect fit.
Exactly. And often our path, it evolves over time as we grow and learn. The beauty of exploring these ancient systems is that they offer a wealth of perspectives, a diversity of approaches to the spiritual journey. It's like a buffet of wisdom, and we can choose the dishes that nourish us most.
I love that analogy.
Right.
It takes the pressure off, right?
Right.
It's not about finding the one right answer,
Yeah.
but about the process of exploration, of trying new things, of discovering what works for us.
Exactly. And remember, the journey itself is the reward. It's about the process of discovery, the deepening of self-awareness, that ongoing quest for truth and meaning.
Okay, so we've got symbolism, meditation, and an open mind. What other practical advice can we give our listener for incorporating these ideas into their life?
One thing I find helpful is to start with what resonates most. Don't try to learn everything at once. Choose a particular concept, a symbol, a practice that speaks to you, and just delve into that. It's like choosing a thread from that tapestry we were talking about and following it to see where it leads.
So pick a starting point and go from there.
Right.
It's like choosing a book from a vast library, knowing that each book holds a different piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. Try different techniques, read different texts, explore different traditions. It's all about finding those golden nuggets of wisdom that illuminate our path.
And those aha moments, they can come when we least expect them, right?
They do.
It's like suddenly seeing the world in a whole new light.
Absolutely. It's like those synchronicities we were talking about earlier. When we're open to the universe's whispers, the guidance we need often appears in the most unexpected ways.
Okay, so we've given our listeners some practical tools and advice, but I'm still thinking about that big question we posed earlier. What can we learn from these ancient systems about navigating the complexities of modern life? I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the chaos of the world, to feel overwhelmed by all the challenges we face.
You're right, and I think one of the most valuable lessons we can learn from these traditions is the importance of perspective. They remind us that there's a bigger picture, a cosmic dance that's been unfolding for millennia.
So even amidst the chaos, there's this underlying order. It's like looking up at the stars on a dark night and realizing just how vast and ancient the universe truly is.
Exactly. Think of the cycles of creation and destruction, the interplay of light and darkness, the ebb and flow of energy that's woven into the very fabric of existence. These systems remind us that challenges are part of the process, that growth often emerges from difficulty, and that even in the darkest of times, there's always the potential for transformation.
It's about finding that inner stillness, that place of peace within, even when the world around us feels so turbulent. It's like finding the eye of the storm.
Exactly. And that inner peace, it comes from connecting with something larger than ourselves, whether you call it the divine, the universe, or simply the interconnected web of life. These ancient systems, they provide us with tools for accessing that connection, for finding our place in the grand scheme of things.
It's about remembering that we're not alone in this journey, that we're part of a larger story that's been unfolding since the beginning of time.
And that realization can be incredibly empowering. It gives us a sense of purpose, of belonging, of hope, even in the face of adversity.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired, but I'm also aware that we've barely scratched the surface of this vast topic. There's so much more to explore. And speaking of exploration, we've got this fascinating Arabic source, uea7.pdf, that we haven't even touched on yet. It mentions comparisons between different traditions, including some insights from Islamic and Sufi perspectives.
That's right. And it highlights another crucial point. These systems, they weren't static. They evolved over time, influenced by other cultures and belief systems. It's like a cross-pollination of ideas, a blending of different perspectives that enriched the tapestry of wisdom.
So it's like these ancient systems were having their own deep dives into each other.
They were.
Borrowing ideas and weaving them into their own unique perspectives.
Exactly. And this Arabic source, it provides a window into how these ancient systems were integrated and reinterpreted within different cultural contexts.
Okay, I'm officially hooked. We're going to need a whole other deep dive just to unpack this Arabic source. But for now, let's shift gears a bit. We've explored the connections between Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and ancient mythology. We've discussed their relevance for modern life. We've even hinted at the cross-cultural influences at play. But there's one element we haven't talked about yet: the power of story.
That's a brilliant observation. Stories, they're the vessels that carry these ancient teachings across generations. They're the lifeblood of these traditions, giving them a human dimension that we can all connect with.
Exactly. You know, we've mentioned figures like Hermes Trismegistus and Horus, but their stories are more than just biographies, aren't they? They're like allegorical tales filled with symbolism and deeper meaning.
Right. Think of the story of Isis and Osiris, for example. It's a tale of love, loss, betrayal, and resurrection. But it's also a symbolic representation of the cycles of life and death, the interplay of light and darkness, the eternal struggle between good and evil. It's a story that has resonated with humans for centuries.
And these stories, they weren't just meant to entertain, were they?
No.
They served a deeper purpose.
Absolutely. They were tools for teaching, for transmitting values, for connecting with the divine. They provided a framework for understanding the complexities of human existence, for making sense of the world around us.
So it's not just about the concepts themselves, but how those concepts are embodied in stories,
Right.
in characters, in archetypes that we can relate to on a personal level.
Exactly. Stories make these ancient teachings come alive. They give them a human dimension, a relatable context that transcends time and culture.
And that's what makes mythology so powerful, isn't it? It speaks to something deep within us, something universal that connects us to our ancestors and to the ongoing human story. It's like we're all characters in this grand narrative, each playing our part.
Precisely. And these ancient tales, they continue to inspire us, to challenge us, to guide us on our own journeys of self-discovery.
Okay, so we've established that stories are key to understanding these ancient systems. But what about our own stories? How can we weave these ancient teachings into our own narratives? You know, the way we make sense of our own lives. It's like we're all writing our own personal mythologies, aren't we?
That's a wonderful question. And I think the answer lies in recognizing the symbolic language of our own experiences. Think about the challenges you've faced, the triumphs you've celebrated, the lessons you've learned. These are the threads that make up your own personal tapestry.
So it's about seeing our lives through the lens of these ancient archetypes, these universal themes that have played out across millennia, like finding the hero's journey in our own everyday experiences.
Exactly. Perhaps you've experienced a period of darkness, a time of loss or grief, only to emerge stronger and wiser on the other side. That's the story of Isis and Osiris playing out in your own life.
Or maybe you faced a a seemingly insurmountable challenge and found the courage to overcome it. It's like we're all facing our own inner dragons, our own personal trials that we must conquer to reach our full potential.
Precisely. By recognizing these patterns in our own lives, we tap into the wisdom of the ancients. We connect with the lineage of seekers and storytellers, and we find deeper meaning in our own experiences.
It's about recognizing that our stories aren't just personal anecdotes,
Yeah.
but reflections of universal truths, of archetypal patterns that connect us to the larger human story.
You've got it. And that realization, that can be incredibly empowering. It helps us make sense of our challenges, to find meaning in our struggles, and to navigate life's transitions with greater wisdom and resilience.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Mm-hmm.
We've explored these ancient systems. We've connected them to modern thought. We've talked about practical applications. And now we've even woven in the power of story. I feel like we've been on an epic adventure.
We have. And it's a journey that doesn't end here. This deep dive, it's just the beginning.
Exactly. And mindfulness practices like meditation can help us develop that capacity for presence. It's like training our minds to be more focused, more aware, more grounded in the present moment.
Okay. And what about our actions? How can we be sure that, that our actions are aligned with these principles we've been talking about? It's one thing to talk about living a meaningful life, right?
Yeah.
But how do we actually make that happen? Well, think about those values that we mentioned earlier. Love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness. These are like guiding principles that can inform our actions, our choices and our interactions with others.
So it's about making choices then that are aligned with our values, that reflect our highest selves, even when it's hard.
Exactly. And sometimes that means choosing the more difficult path, the one that requires courage, integrity, and compassion. It's about acting from a place of love rather than fear, even when it's challenging.
And what about our relationships? How do these teachings apply to the way we interact with others? It's so easy to get caught up in our own little dramas, right?
Yes, it is.
And forget about the bigger picture.
Right. Well, think about that interconnectedness we talked about earlier. We're all part of like a larger web of life. And our actions, they have these ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves. Everything we do, every interaction, it impacts the world around us in some way.
So it's about treating others with respect and kindness and understanding, recognizing that, that we're all connected somehow. It's about seeing that divine spark, right, in everyone we meet, even those who are difficult to love.
Precisely. And this applies to all our relationships, from our closest loved ones to, even strangers that we encounter in our daily lives. Every interaction is a chance to practice these principles, to embody the wisdom we've been exploring.
Okay. So mindfulness, values-based actions, compassionate relationships, all tangible ways to embody these teachings. But it still feels pretty overwhelming sometimes. Where do we even begin? It's like trying to climb a mountain but not knowing which path to take.
Well, start with small steps. Choose one area of your life, where you want to make a change. Just focus on that. Could be a relationship with yourself, with a loved one, with your work, or your community, right? Don't try to do everything at once. Just focus on one small step at a time.
So don't try to boil the ocean, right? Just pick a starting point, right?
Yeah.
And build from there.
Exactly. Maybe you want to cultivate a daily meditation practice or, make a conscious effort to be more kind and compassionate in your interactions with others. It could be as simple as smiling at a stranger or, offering a helping hand to someone in need.
Right. And remember, progress, it's not always linear.
Right.
There are going to be times, right, when we stumble, we make mistakes, we fall short of our ideals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like learning to ride a bike. We're going to fall a few times, right, before we find our balance.
That's part of the process. The key is to be gentle with ourselves, to learn from our mistakes, and just keep striving to live in alignment with our values. It's not about perfection, it's about progress.
Okay, so small steps, self-compassion, and a willingness to keep learning and growing. Those are essential ingredients for the journey. But let's be honest, sometimes the journey can feel really long and challenging. It's easy to get discouraged, to lose sight of the bigger picture. So what keeps us going? What's the ultimate purpose of all this knowledge, of all this wisdom? I mean, why are we even here?
Yeah, this is the ultimate question, isn't it? And it's one that, philosophers and mystics have pondered for millennia, right? And while there's no one definitive answer, I think these ancient wisdom traditions, they do offer us some valuable clues. They point towards a deeper meaning, a purpose that goes beyond our our everyday concerns.
I love clues. Give me some examples. What kind of clues can we find in these traditions?
Well, think about the concept of interconnectedness, so central to both Kabbalah and Hermeticism. It suggests that we're all part of like this larger web of life, that our actions have these ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves. It's like we're all threads in this grand tapestry, each playing our part in creating the overall pattern.
So our purpose is tied to our connection with others, with the world around us. It's about recognizing that we're not isolated individuals, right?
Right.
But part of something so much bigger.
Exactly. And this idea, it's echoed in many indigenous traditions, which emphasize the importance of living in harmony with nature, of honoring the interconnectedness of all things. It's about seeing ourselves as part of a larger ecosystem, a delicate web of life that we need to protect and nurture.
Okay. And what about those teachings that focus on spiritual development, on cultivating our higher selves? I mean, what's the purpose of all that? It's so easy to just, get caught up in the material world, right?
Oh, it is.
And forget about our spiritual side.
Those teachings suggest that we're not just physical beings, but we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? Our purpose, then, is to evolve our consciousness, to connect with that divine spark within, to manifest our highest potential. It's about becoming more than just our physical selves, about tapping into that deeper dimension of our being.
So it's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Yes.
About realizing our full potential as human beings. It's like we're all diamonds in the rough, right?
Yes.
And our purpose is to polish ourselves until we shine brightly.
Precisely. And this process of self-realization, of spiritual growth, is seen as like an essential part of our purpose here. It's about expanding our awareness, cultivating our compassion, and living in alignment with our highest values.
Okay, so interconnectedness, spiritual development. Are there any other clues to our purpose that we can glean from these traditions?
Well, think about the emphasis on service, on contributing to something larger than ourselves. A lot of these teachings, they suggest that our purpose is tied to making a positive impact on the world, to leaving it a better place than we found it, right? It's about recognizing that we have a responsibility to each other, to our communities, and to the planet.
So it's about using our gifts and talents to make a difference, to contribute to the well-being of others, to create a more just and compassionate world. It's about leaving a positive legacy, like a footprint of love and kindness in the world.
Exactly. Whether it's through our work, our relationships, or our involvement in our communities, it's about finding ways to make a positive impact. It's about asking ourselves, how can I serve? How can I make a difference? How can I leave this world a little brighter than I found it?
Okay, so we've got interconnectedness, spiritual development, service. It sounds like our purpose is kind of multifaceted, a tapestry woven from all these different threads, right?
It is. It's not just one thing, but a combination of all these elements.
But it still feels like such a huge question.
Yeah.
A bit overwhelming even. I mean, how do we actually know what our purpose is, what we're meant to do here? It's like we're all searching for that missing piece of the puzzle, but we don't know what it looks like.
That's where the journey of self-discovery comes in. It's about exploring our passions, our interests, our talents. It's about paying attention to those moments when we feel most alive, most engaged, most fulfilled, right? It's about listening to our hearts and trusting our intuition.
So it's about listening to our inner compass, those nudges from the universe that guide us towards our true path. It's like we all have this internal GPS system, right?
Yeah.
But we have to learn how to tune into its signals.
Exactly. And those nudges, they can come in many forms: a sudden inspiration, a chance encounter, a deep sense of knowing. It's about paying attention to those synchronicities, those moments of serendipity that seem to point us in a certain direction.
And sometimes those nudges, they lead us down these unexpected paths, right?
Yeah.
We might start out thinking, okay, I'm meant to do this, but then life takes us on this detour.
Right.
And we end up somewhere totally different.
Absolutely. Our purpose, it might not be what we initially envisioned. It might unfold gradually, through a series of twists and turns. It's like following a treasure map. But the treasure we find, well, it might be different from what we were expecting.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the journey, right? It's about being open to the unexpected, to embracing the unknown, to trusting that we're being guided towards something meaningful. Even when the path ahead seems unclear, we can trust that we're exactly where we're meant to be.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about surrendering to the flow of life, trusting that even in the midst of uncertainty, there's a deeper wisdom at play.
Okay, so we're following those nudges, we're exploring our passions, we're open to the unexpected. But what about those times when we feel lost? When we're unsure of our direction, how do we find our way back to our purpose? It's like we've lost our map and our compass and we're wandering the wilderness.
Those moments of uncertainty, they're natural, and they're often an invitation to go deeper, to reconnect with our inner selves. It's a time to reflect, to reassess our values, to ask ourselves those big questions. What do I truly care about? What difference do I want to make in the world? What brings me joy and fulfillment?
So it's about using those moments of uncertainty as an opportunity for growth, right? And recalibration, like pausing, taking a deep breath, and reorienting ourselves.
Exactly. It's about remembering that the journey of self-discovery is ongoing, that our purpose might evolve over time as we grow and learn. It's not a static destination, but a fluid and dynamic process.
Okay, so we've talked about interconnectedness, spiritual development, service, self-discovery. I feel like we're starting to, we're starting to piece together a pretty profound understanding of our purpose here.
Yeah.
But there's still one element that I think is really essential to this conversation, and that's the role of joy.
Yeah.
We can get so caught up in striving for meaning and purpose that we forget to actually enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Right.
That's such an important point. These ancient wisdom traditions, they weren't just about rigorous disciplines and self-denial. They recognized the importance of joy, of celebrating life, of finding pleasure in the simple things. They understood that joy is an essential part of the human experience, a vital ingredient in living a fulfilling life.
Right. Think about those ancient festivals and rituals. They were often filled with music, dance, and feasting, right? They were celebrations of life, of the abundance of nature, of the connection between, humanity and the divine. It was about finding joy in the present moment, in just the simple act of being alive.
Exactly. And that sense of joy, of gratitude, of reverence for life. That's an essential part of fulfilling our purpose. It's not about delaying gratification, until we reach some future goal. It's about finding joy in the journey itself.
So it's not just about striving and achieving, but about finding joy in the process, in the journey itself. It's about savoring those small moments, right? Those everyday experiences that bring us happiness and fulfillment.
Precisely. Our purpose, it's not something we achieve at some distant point in the future. It's something that we embody in every moment, in the way we live our lives, in the choices we make, in the interactions we have. It's about finding that spark of joy in the everyday, in the simple act of being alive.
Wow, this has been such an incredible deep dive. I mean, we've explored ancient wisdom, we've connected it to modern thought, we've talked about practical applications, the power of belief, and wow, we've even pondered the very meaning of life. I feel like my mind has expanded like tenfold.
It has been quite a journey, and it's a journey that doesn't end here. These ancient teachings, they offer a wealth of wisdom, really, that we can continue to explore and integrate into our lives. They offer guidance, inspiration, and a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to our listener, we encourage you to keep exploring those topics that sparked your curiosity, to delve deeper into those teachings that resonated with your soul. The journey of self-discovery is a lifelong adventure. And there's always more to learn, more to experience, more to uncover.
And remember, the wisdom of the ancients, it's always there, waiting to be uncovered, to be reinterpreted, to be woven into the tapestry of your own understanding. It's a gift that keeps on giving, really a source of guidance and inspiration that can enrich our lives in countless ways.
So as we conclude this deep dive, we invite you to reflect on this question. What will you do with this newfound knowledge? How will you integrate these ancient teachings into your own life, your own journey of self-discovery? The answers, of course, lie within you. Trust your intuition, follow your heart, and embrace the adventure. And until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.